Guys, guys, it's not been 2 days when the largest national infrastructure bill since Eisenhower was signed. And who do we have? Just the commissioner of the Indiana Department of Transportation. That's all. Wow. More on that in a moment. Okay, first of all, though, do you make enough money? No, that's me. That's not your spouse talking to you about asking this question. Do you make enough money? Do you Are you interested in maybe a promotion or maybe another job opportunity completely somewhere else? Well, if you're interested in these types of things, then you also must be interested in our mission of helping you get from where you are to where you want to be in your professional career. And to do that, we do that through volunteers such as myself and input and feedback from you, the members of the chapter. And I think based upon the work of our volunteers and that feedback, we put on programs such as this. And I want to be upfront to thank the volunteers, all you volunteers out there, for helping put together this particular program. Just a thank you. Thank you from me for being able to do this and enrich you as your MC for the evening. But also thank you for helping pull together the program, the speakers, work through the preparations, the promotion, all that work. So thanks, guys, for doing that. All righty, now let's get on with the thing that we always start with here. It's time for announcements. I remember another organization where I would say the word announcements and the audience would burst into song before I can actually get on with the announcements. So maybe that's something we can do in 2022. So think about that. Welcome new chapter members, newly certified folks that are out there, project managers. Congratulations. We'd like to celebrate your new membership or your certification. Drop down a note in the chat there to share with the rest of us so that we can help celebrate and congratulate you. Did you know it's PMI voting season right now? And so we're going to hear a little bit more about that. But you can see by the little image here, thank you to the Nevada chapter of PMI for sending this encouraging little image to have us vote. I'm not sure how that got there. Hey, have you heard about micro credentials, particularly PMI's Agile Hybrid Project Pro micro credential? If you did, you probably heard about it at one of these sessions because we had a guest speaker on that not too long ago, just a couple, 3 months ago. Just a reminder here, you can get your knowledge assessed in Agile hybrid projects, earn 13 PDUs, and get an achievement badge, all for that micro credential. If you're interested, hey, I'd like some help from some of those fellow program team members here. If someone's interested, could you write down in the chat what they should do to uh, get this micro credential? Where can they find more information? Put that in the chat there. Okay, another page of announcements. Hey, don't lose your chapter benefits. Ensure that you're signed up for the auto renew feature. I'll also tell you, remember my warning from last month? My credit card changed and lapsed. If your credit card changes, you have to go back in and fix that too. So, you don't want to go like 3 days without access to PIMBOK. So you want to get that done. You know, there's still time yet this year to save money. I know 5% off the already existing discount you have as a member on a number of certifications that are here. 5% off, that is. That's like reverse inflation on that. So you may want to look into that. You have check your email out. There's an exclusive promotional code for you to do that. Alrighty, reminder, join us after our presenter and after our volunteer mini podcast featurette for networking. And we've checked out and we believe our guest speaker is going to be able to join us as well. So this might be a chance to get into a smaller group. We open up our cameras and microphones, of course, for that. We got a couple of topic questions. We continue to tweak the format and the feedback has been increasingly good. So check that out today because we've kind of changing the formula with that. Would love you to do that. Would love for you to be able to have a little opportunity to network with 4 or 5 others in your group. We will also have your survey. We are always interested in your feedback on that. We really appreciate it and use that. And so at the tail end of the program tonight will be a survey link. It is now time, though, for that part of the program where we'd like to hear a little bit from what's the board of directors doing? And we spun the bottle. And today, the winner was or is our chapter president, Casey Adams. Casey, welcome. And he was there just a second ago. Casey, welcome. And what words from the board do you have for us this month?
Hey, everybody. So, first thing I'm going to point out is that we have become a PMI affiliate, which basically just means we have this nice little portal where you can access things like that Agile Hybrid Project Pro, along with some of the other new products that PMI has come out with. So you can go to the link right there. I put it in the chat. You'll get it in the email that comes out after close of the session today. And we do get a little bit of a funding boost for people going through our portal. So by doing that, you actually give back to the chapter in that way. So voting already for the next year for our board of directors. So we have 3 openings every year. We do 3 out of the 6 positions, and so this year we have our current VP of Professional Development, Galen Hill, is up for election to remain in that role. And I will just say I would be very pleased and happy to continue working with her. So a vote to affirm that would be very much appreciated. It is wild and almost unbelievable to think that we're at the end of the year, and for this board, the 4 of us, it's our first year working together as a board of directors, and it has been a year of unexpected events and challenges, and a lot of fun as we work through those challenges and really come together and work with our other chapter leaders who have stepped up and are still continuing to step up. Plenty of opportunities to join in. So please, if you see something, if you just want to know, go ahead and reach out to us and we'll get you in there. We are actually having our quarterly leadership workshop this weekend. We're going to be spending some time looking at what we want to do next year. And we're going to set some goals for ourselves and then and measure the goals we set for ourselves last year. And being a new board of people, we struggled a little bit to come up with some of those, but I feel a lot more confident this year about how we're going to handle that. Also, there will not be a program next month. This is the last one for the year. I would like to offer you, though, PMI has a couple of very interesting webinars coming up. You can see the details there on the slide, and those links will also be in the email that goes out after the event. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining and for making this a year of delivering great content and for making us feel like we're doing something of value to all of you. And we look forward to doing more of it next year.
Casey, thanks a bunch. Appreciate that. I want to add on to one item here Casey mentioned. You see that Q3 leadership workshop he referred to that's coming up this weekend. If you want to provide a little input into what that leadership group is able to talk about, hang around for the networking event. One of the topics will help provide some input into that particular workshop that's coming up just this coming weekend. So you get a chance to make a quick contribution here. We'd be very interested in that. So thank you very much for that. Now, when this slide comes up, we're just moments away from our guest speaker for the evening. So get ready, get belted, get your seat buckled, okay? Because it's Department of Transportation time. But first, know that PMI members have assessed that, we're determined that honesty, responsibility, respect, fairness are values that of ethical conduct in our profession. We exercise those, we practice those. And as such, we realize that all the work presented here is the intellectual property of the presenters, and the thoughts and opinions expressed by said presenters are those of them and not necessarily PMI or PMI-CIC, and that the unauthorized reproduction and distribution of the copyright work is, it's a no-no, and you could get in trouble. So please don't do that. And now, no further ado, no further announcements. Given recent news regarding the massive national infrastructure bill signed earlier this week, we are extraordinarily fortunate to have pre-planned an appearance by our guest speaker who may well be busier than he's ever been. He may well be the hardest working man in the state. Okay. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than to be good, perhaps. Joe McGuinness was appointed commissioner of the Indiana Department of Transportation in 2017 by Governor Eric Holcomb. He is a lifelong Johnson County resident. And if my sources are right, I think that goes back to Center Grove High School, in fact. Joe is graduated from Franklin College, 2000, Bachelor of Arts degree in Sociology and Criminal Justice. And he earned a master's in accounting from Indiana Wesleyan. In 2011, Joe was elected mayor of Franklin, where he served for about 5 years until tapped on the shoulder by Governor Holcomb for his current role. As mayor, Joe oversaw significant resurgence in downtown Franklin. And in fact, much of the growth and redevelopment occurred because of substantial investment in infrastructure and solid economic development projects. Joe, on behalf of the chapter of project managers in Central Indiana, we welcome you. We really, really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to visit with us. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Joe McGuinness. Joe,
Thank you, Rich.
if we had people turn their microphones on, you'd be hearing
This would be the time.
sustained,
Oh yeah,
thunder
I'm sure.
sustained applause right now.
I'm
Right?
sure,
So,
yeah. Because everybody here on this call is so excited when they see orange barrels laying around all over the interstates and highways. So I'm sure they're really excited to see me. But they are my fault. I'll take full blame. Please don't, as you'll hear at the end, I always give my safety spiel. It is not the fault of the workers. It is my fault. You can blame me. You can curse at me all you want. But please leave them, allow them to be safe, and they're doing their job. But I do thank you, Rich, for the introduction and the opportunity to be with you all. Just a little quick trivia that Casey and I actually, our days go back 25-ish years ago at Franklin College. Actually, we are fraternity brothers as well, Phi Delta Theta. So fraternity brothers, and so I've known Casey for quite a long time. So it's kind of fun how career paths collide, and you end up working with project managers like I do at INDOT every single day. So it's pretty wild. So again, thank you. So just about INDOT, everybody thinks that we're just all about orange barrels and tearing up roads and causing havoc and making your commute to work or to your kids' events or to whatever, Colts games, whatever, to be horrible. And part of that's true. But a little bit about who INDOT is. Real quick, we are made up of 6 districts around the state. Indianapolis, for example, is in the Greenfield district. Where I live in Johnson County, I'm actually at home right now in Franklin. So if you hear my dog go crazy, I'll put it on mute real quick, and hopefully that she will puggle, so she barks at everything. But here in Franklin, we are in the Seymour district, even though I-65 is just literally right outside my window. We are here in the Seymour district. So you can kind of see the map there. Right around 3,500 employees. Just like everyone else, that number is down a little bit. We were about 100 more than that when I first came into the agency nearly 5 years ago. But through attrition and the job market these days, it's been tough to get that number back up, particularly within project managers. To be quite honest with you, once you've been with INDOT maybe 3 or 4 years, that becomes you become a senior project manager in construction, and typically the contractors or the consultant engineers, they become very appealing to them, and so they will oftentimes come and grab them up. As you can see there, nearly 30,000 lane miles of road and almost 5,800 bridges around the state. Just a quick piece, most people don't know this. 30,000 lane miles of road, a lot of that is interstate. But your local communities, if you bundled up all the local communities, they outweigh us on lane miles by about 4 to 1. And on the bridges, interesting thing is if you live, like I live in the city of Franklin, and there's bridges all over the place, of course, right outside the entrance to Franklin College, as a matter of fact. Those bridges in the state of Indiana, by state statute, actually belong to the county. Outside of U.S. highways, state roads, and interstate bridges, which do belong to us at INDOT, any bridge that is even inside the municipal limits, it could be a city street on both sides of it. That city street belongs to the city, but the actual bridge does belong to the county, which kind of becomes cumbersome and a pain at times for us. And for those folks that just don't quite grasp all that, but that is just kind of a unique thing that is the state of Indiana. I will talk about this slide very briefly because, as Rich mentioned, we are on the heels of yesterday. President Biden signed the new infrastructure bill. So this slide is actually will change in time once we hammer out all the numbers. I've got some pretty decent numbers here, but we don't have the exact numbers. But as you can see there, most of our money, and like I said, this year is about $3.7 billion in our fiscal year 22, which we run July 1st through June 30th. So we've been in this fiscal year for 5 or so months, 4.5 months, I guess. About 3.6 billion. That does include some of those COVID relief dollars that have been distributed 2 or 3 different times to local units of government, to state government. And so that does, this pie chart does in our budget does include some of those COVID relief dollars. It does not include new infrastructure dollars. What you can see there is most of our program, or most of that pie is eaten up with our state capital program, and then our local capital program. So we do facilitate a lot of funds to local units of government through the Metropolitan Planning Organization or through our rural program if they're not a part of the MPO. And so that local program is also funded through us. Now, that doesn't mean that we fund your traditional Main Street type projects. These are more capital intensive, maybe roundabouts, maybe bridge repairs out in the county, other type projects. This isn't your traditional maintenance type projects that go on around. Actually, I'm going to go back to this slide because I mentioned I was going to talk about the infrastructure bill. So we currently Monday, new infrastructure bill text. So let's forget about the infrastructure bill for just a second. We receive from Federal Highway, we receive about $1 billion, $50 million. So I'm going to round down. It's $1 billion a year that we receive from Federal Highway. Now those dollars are all dollars that are collected at the pump. So when you go, whether it's unleaded or diesel trucks or any other type of alternative fuel, those dollars are collected at the pump. And a caveat to all this is INDOT is solely funded on what you put in your tank at the pump. We don't receive income taxes, property taxes, sales tax on that vehicle, or sales tax on a truck or a TV. We don't receive any of those kind of funds. So we're solely dependent upon what you do at the pump, which is, you can kind of foreshadowing, looking into the future, you can tell that's going to be a challenge for us, which we're working through. But with the new infrastructure bill, it is in our first year will be, instead of $1 billion, we'll receive $1,210 million. So it's an increase of about it's about $212 million overall. We will share some of those dollars with the locals. So as you can kind of see, like the gray area there, we are required to peel off 25% of any new federal funds, and all that has to go to the local program, which in this case is about $50 million. So all in, we will see in calendar year 22 an increase of about $160 million over what we currently see today. That's the lowest we'll see. That number grows over the 5-year plan that President Biden signed yesterday. Will grow to about $238 million of new money to INDOT in 2026. So it starts out at 160, grows to about 38 over the 5-year plan, which we're excited about. We're going to be able to check off some of those projects that we typically forecast out 7 years. And so we want to put together a 7-year program, a fully funded program. It helps with our contractors. It helps with the engineering field. So those folks know what we're going towards and how we can work with them on making sure that they're staffed up and they're prepared for our program as we go forward. And so that 7-year plan is what we're looking at. But inevitably, there's projects that are good projects. They just didn't score as well in our district level where they begin. And so there may be our second tier projects and they're sitting on a shelf. So with these new dollars, we're going to be able to take some of those projects, get them off the shelf, put them back into our program, and hit the reset button and dump some of those projects back in. Some of which you're going to see, you're going to probably start to see more interstate projects around the state. In 2019, I'm not going to use 2020 numbers because we all know what happened in 2020, but in 2019, the state of Indiana, just on our interstate system, saw about $750 billion worth of freight. So that's just goods, raw goods or finished product traveling just on our Indiana interstate. So that's good. We'd love to get to $1 trillion, but that $750 billion, as you can imagine, does its fair share of wear and tear on our interstates. and we want to make it safe for you as you know, as a typical motorist that may be driving a sedan or an SUV or a pickup truck. We want to make it safe, and so there's going to be additional safety projects that we're going to put out on our interstates with some of these new dollars, adding travel lanes particularly on I-65 and I-70. Agency updates, some of the things that we like to brag about, although we are Hoosiers, so we're kind of humble about it, but we're really excited that some of the national publications look at INDOT as kind of one of the industry leaders. And so the last 5 years, this is our 5th year straight of ranking in the top 5 for infrastructure by CNBC. They announce this about usually around February, March, right before construction season kicks off. They take into account not only our roads and bridge program or our current state of them, our future program. They're also starting to look at other infrastructure needs, like broadband, access to broadband for those folks that may live in a rural area. And so we've climbed up. We were 3rd this past year. We were 1st 2 years ago, so I want to get back to 1st, and we're gonna work to get back to that. Engineering News Record, which is kind of our cornerstone in the engineering world and the civil engineering world. Their publication named us the 2020 Owner of the Year for the Midwest, which is kind of a big deal for us because it's not necessarily always has to be a state DOT. It could be a private company, for example. And they wanted to recognize us for various projects we have going on around major capital projects, which I'll get into here momentarily. But one of the big things that we did is when the pandemic hit, we all kind of had to take a step back and reassess and what the heck's going on. Is it really 2 weeks to flatten the curve, which obviously we know isn't what happened. It took much longer than that. And so March, April, May, as you can imagine, is when we really ramp up our capital program and get those projects out there literally out on the street. And so one of the things that we did is we didn't slow down. We didn't pull any projects back. We fortunately had a nice cash reserve, and what I was calling at that time our rainy day fund or our COVID relief fund. We had one internally at INDOT, and so I said, "Hey, it's raining. It's actually pouring buckets, and so if we're not going to use it now, we're never going to use it. The taxpayers deserve this. We've been saving for a day like this, and so we didn't completely unload it, but we did go from about $700 million in the bank to about $225 to $250 million in the bank, and that was just to keep our program afloat. Because as you heard me say earlier, when you drive more, the more we have to spend on projects. Well, we saw that about 45% of our typical passenger traffic had diminished, just completely gone. Overnight was gone. And so we didn't have people driving downtown to Salesforce, for example, or Lilly or anywhere else in the state. And then the toll revenue that we were going to lose on the bridges down south was immediate. And so we unloaded the cash and kept our program afloat, kept our project managers moving as if nothing had happened. And we wanted to continue to make sure we do that. And ENR recognized that, and the engineering firms recognized that and appreciated it because we didn't. Many of our neighboring states, Kentucky, for example, they were skipping contract lettings because they didn't know what was going to happen. Major projects. This is a Central Indiana group. I don't have to tell you that there's some major projects going on around here. In particular, the North Split, Section 6 of I-69, and those are just here in Central Indiana. Of course, we have them going on all around the state. But our communications goal, I'm coming from local government, and there's nothing more transparent, in my opinion, than local government. I go to the grocery store, I go to eat with my family, my kids, and who do you run into? Inevitably, you're going to run into the mayor, or I'm not the mayor anymore, obviously, but my wife is now on the city council, so we just can't avoid this. And so I take this willingness and drive to be transparent and get out there and try to market our projects as best as we can, and particularly these larger projects, North Split, for example. Get out there 2 or 3 years before you're going to do it, and start having these stakeholder meetings and start talking to these folks. Obviously, the invention of social media can be a curse some days, but in this situation for us, becomes a wonderful thing because we can really get out there, put out some drone videos of projects that are going on with updates, create websites for each of those, like I-69, for example. I69finishline.com is where you can go. It is owned by us at INDOT. It's free to use. Anybody can use it, but you can go on there, get weekly, daily updates, but you can get weekly videos of what's going on down in Martinsville, what's going on in Southern Johnson County, or Morgan County, on these projects. So it's trying to utilize resources we have to get as much information out there as we can and collect it. I want this to be a two-way street, gather information, particularly from a local elected official. As I mentioned, I-69 finish line. This is, interestingly enough, this is the last piece of I-69. So how important this project is, and I didn't realize this when we first started tackling this. I came in and we finished section 5, which was the Bloomington piece to Martinsville. Something we inherited. We wanted to finish it. We got it finished. Then we want to push. The Governor Holcomb told me, he said, look, I want this done as quickly as we possibly can. We injected a lot of cash into this project, and it is called cash funded. There is no debt issued. We owe no one for this. And we're going to get this thing done by the end of 2024. So how important this is the Consul General from Canada has been watching this project, so much so that he was actually in town last week. And he and I went to breakfast last week to talk about this, because the significance of this project will connect Canada to southern United States and eventually into Mexico. And so for commerce and for economic development opportunities, this is huge for 3 countries. And so they're watching this project diligently. If you're paying attention, it's the Gordie Howe Bridge. It's not our project, obviously. It's in Michigan. It's a combination between the state of Michigan and Canada to connect Detroit into Windsor. It's a brand new bridge. It's being constructed right now. It's a massive, beautiful project. I kind of wish I had it, but whatever. But this I-69 piece right here is very critical in making that final connection. As most of you know, it's on a current alignment of State Road 37, but there's still a lot of work that needs to go into it. It's about a $1.7 billion project, and everything, we're crossing our fingers, but everything goes right. We should have this open by the end of 2024. As a side note, I have a couple friends that have kids that go to IU, and they complain to me on a fairly regular basis that it's hard to get to Bloomington to visit their kids because of the closure in Martinsville. And just had an update this afternoon, and due to some weather complications, we were hoping to have it open by the end of this month, by the end of November, in the next couple of weeks. But we think it's going to be right before Christmas time, so maybe mid-December. We're delayed about 2 or 3 weeks, but we think we'll have it open by then. And so the piece through Martinsville will be a legit straight through interstate access. Rich, you popped up.
I did, Joe. You said it come in there with questions. We weren't going to get past I-69 topic, I was pretty sure, without a question coming in. So
Yeah.
Here's one that pops up. Okay, where's my Q&A? There we go. Oh, it's from someone you know too.
Yeah, it was. Hi, Casey. It was rough. So the Section 5 piece was really kind of that where, it's where old 37 is now, or 37 breaks off south of Bloomington, right as it takes you off into Bedford. So southern Bloomington to southern Martinsville was the Section 5 piece, and that had started in, gosh, I can't remember, 2013-14 timeframe, and it was designed as a public-private partnership. So the P3 was in place. The challenges that we had were many. And so when I came in January of 2017, we had a project developer from Spain that had never done work in North America, or at least in the United States. And so they weren't familiar with a lot of our bid processes. They weren't familiar with just how contractors work, how the design world works, all of those kind of things. And so they stumbled out of the gate when it first started, and they were falling all over themselves by the time we came in. And so essentially what we did is we made a determination, and they were willing to do this. They needed to get out of this project. And so we essentially just bought them out. Just get out of the way, give us this project, give it back to INDOT, so we no longer have a P3. It is solely owned. This project is solely owned by INDOT. So when we took it over, negotiations literally started in January of 2017 when we all first came in. By July 1st, we had ownership, if you will. We took back the project, put our own project managers on it, by July 1st of that same year. So about 6 months later. And when we inherited, it was about 33% complete. And by October of 2018, we were at substantial completion, which means the road is open to traffic. We may not have all the pretty lines completed, all the trees may not be planted, the sod may not be complete, and all those kind of things. The lighting may not be done, but substantial completion is you can drive on it, you can drive interstate speeds, all those kind of things. So we were really proud to be able to take it across the finish line. I'm sorry, I had to use that pun from the current I-69, but really excited to be able to take it back. We had some great people working on that. We did bring out some outside consultants to help us with this, some contractors to kind of help GC this for us with some of our own internal project managers. So it turned out to be a great project. We were happy to be a part of it, and certainly glad that it's over with. Got another question. Completion of the I-69 segment will place additional traffic loads on I-465. What's on tap to increase? Yeah, great question. So actually, if we can go back to the slide, maybe. Uh-oh, what'd I do? There we go. So a big piece of this, and that's a great question, a big piece of this project is tying in actually about $600 or $700 million of this $1.6 billion project is really kind of that Southport Road to 465 tie-in. So a major portion of this is that. And so what you can see on this, I think it's the second bullet, under the second bullet, 8 miles of new lanes for a wider 465. We realized the current connection of 37 and 465, which by the way, I grew up in the White River Township area. So as a crow flies from there, it's not very far from me. I grew up at like Fairview and 37. And so what that will do is widen the 465 segment. And so we can get more traffic on and off I-69 and get you to your final destination. I think there was a quick, I think I saw in that, Rich, there was also something there about the North Split and potential connection with this. We hope to have the North Split completed by November of next year. And so by the time 69 comes up and ties, and we will tie it into 465, the North Split project will be completely done, open, and people will be more than used to new traffic patterns, particularly on that downtown, near north side of downtown piece. Hopefully I answered your questions there. But we do realize that this 465 piece, it's already over capacity in the current configuration, and we know that dumping an interstate into it is a big deal, and that'll be the biggest section of this. Tying two interstates together is a massive undertaking. So here's some of the communications. As I mentioned, I69finishline.com, great place to use. We have newsletters. You can log on. You can sign up for a newsletter. You'll get regular newsletters from us. Of course, all the social media pieces there. And as you can see, it's kind of queued up right there in the finish line. There is it's not hard linked here, but there are regular videos that the team puts up. Sometimes they fly a drone. Sometimes they just walk around a specific piece of the project, and you can see what's going on. North Split, as we've touched on a couple different times. Actually, just met with, had coffee this morning with the gentleman that's the owner and CEO of Superior Construction. Superior Construction is the contractor on this project. They have a bunch of subs with them, but they are the main contractor for us on this particular project. I get it. It's disruptive. Many of these bridges were built 55 to 60 years ago. You hope that a bridge makes it to 75 years, but most of the time it's going to be in that 50 to 60 year range. And this particular intersection right here sees about 160,000 vehicles per day. Some of those are trucks, some of those are motorcycles, and everything else in between. But 160,000 vehicle count per day is enormous, and something that's 55 or 60 years old, as you can imagine, it's not going to hold up. And some of the crazy things that I didn't even know, that there's actually about 50, as you can see there, approximately 50 small structures or bridges that we are either reconstructing or rehabbing as part of this project, and obviously a lot of pavement. One of the cool things, which I think will make it safer, because before this project, you rarely could get up in the morning, turn on the news or turn on the radio, and as you're driving into work, you always heard, and there's another accident in the North Split. And it was because the 6570, the way that everything was configured, there was a horrible weave. And so if you're coming up from the south, like myself, and you come through there, you get north of Washington Street, if I want to stay on 65, I got to get on the far left lane. And then the minute that I get through the split right there, if I need to get over to Meridian, it's nearly impossible. Or if I want to continue on 65 North, I've now got to get over 2 or 3, maybe even 4 lanes of traffic with the same people that are frustrated, and they're trying to get to work on time as well. And so we're going to fix that, and also free up about 40 acres of land that we're going to give back to the city. And I think they're going to tie into the Frank O'Bannon, and there's a soccer park and some other things through there. And they're going to put in some additional park features, maybe a dog park, some walking trails, those kind of things. So we technically have to sell it to them, but I don't think $1 an acre is too bad of too much to ask for 40 acres. So that will go back to the city for them to use, and the Parks Department, however they so choose. But we're going to fix that weave. And so if you're on 65, you want to stay on 65, you can stay in that lane that you currently are in once this is completed. So it'll be much safer, obviously a much better product when we complete next year. Same thing, communications. This was actually really cool because we do have a virtual project office. And so there are people in there that can actually answer your questions virtually. And as you can see, the bottom picture there on the screen, it looks like one of our project offices. And so that's kind of a neat feature that's combination with Superior Construction and HNTB. That can answer a lot of engineering questions, construction questions, those kind of things. So again, northsplit.com, and then there's the link there to the virtual project office. So kind of the value, you've heard me talk about partnerships, you're talking about Superior Construction, you've heard me talk about HNTB, various groups. There's a bunch of them. Many of them are on the signature. It's hard to see here, but this poster board. One of the things that I noticed 5 years ago when I came in is that, and by the way, I came in January, and in April, the governor signed a new road funding bill that was completely separate from the infrastructure bill that I just talked about. This was more of a statewide thing, which generated a lot more money for us. And so I really kind of came in in the middle of a perfect storm. But one of the things I realized is that Indiana Constructors Inc. Is a great partner for us. So is BIC, the Build Indiana Council, all Indiana Motor Truck Association. ACEC is the engineering group. AIM is for the Association for Cities and Towns. And then it's kind of hard to see there, but the red circle with the state in it is the Association for Counties, Indiana Counties. They've all been tremendous partners for us. And what we've been able to do, instead of having this finger pointing like we had before this road funding, I finally just sat down with a bunch of folks and said, guys, look, here's the situation. Our budget is going to incrementally increase to a level that the state has never seen before. There are a lot of big contractors, a lot of medium, there's a lot of small, there's a lot of DBEs, there's a lot of engineering firms. We work with 75 to 85 different engineering firms. Cities and towns are going to get their fair share. There's a whole bunch of you, and there's one sandbox, and the sandbox just nearly doubled. So can we all get in the sandbox and play together and play fair instead of pointing fingers at each other? They were pointing fingers at me, I was pointing fingers at them. We were all guilty. So we spent a lot of time, and we formulated this Indiana transportation team, where we went around city by city, met with business leaders, met with project managers from these individual private companies, and gave everybody the opportunity to get up. And sometimes these meetings were very difficult to have because we wanted you. We're coming up on the season of Festivus for all of you Seinfeld fans, and so we wanted to air our grievances. And so this was your opportunity. Any problems you've had with INDOT, any problems that I've had with a specific contractor or an engineering firm or any one of these associations, now is the time to air your grievances. And we're going to talk about these. We're going to knock all these things out. And then when we're done, we don't know when that's going to be. This is a living, working thing. When we're done, we're going to sign this oath that if you have a problem in the future, you come to us individually. You don't go to your individual, you don't go to each of your groups and get everybody riled up. If you've got a problem with our contracting team, come talk to me. If you've got a problem with a project manager group, come talk to me. If you've got a problem with so-and-so, let's talk. And likewise, I'll do the same for you. So this has been extremely successful. COVID we were still doing some regional meetings. COVID obviously kind of knocked that out, but we're getting ready to, when the winter hits, the construction season kind of winds down a little bit, we're going to get back out there and have these conversations again. This is really cool. This is, and to be completely transparent, this is one of the things that I really wanted to get out there and let people see what we're doing in the state with their tax dollars that they're spending. You're putting money at the pump now more so than ever. maybe ever. We're coming up on it, but we're putting more money in the pump into our fuel tanks today than we have in a very long time. So I want you to know, when you spend $1 in taxes at the fuel pump, where's that dollar going? And so we created this website, again, owned by INDOT. You're more than welcome to get it. Please share it with your neighbors, your friends, your coworkers, whomever. Nextlevelroads.com, and it's a Google Map based. It's touch. You can pull up, use it on your smartphone. You can do it on your tablet, on your laptop, whatever computer you have, whatever form of technology you have, you can use it. This looks, I call this the Crayola map. It looks like you gave a box of crayons to a 3 or 4-year-old and they went nuts on a map. And it's kind of daunting to sit here and look at this, but you can zero in on any of the 92 counties. These dots represent something. Off to the right, you'll see this legend that you can click and unclick certain things. By the way, this is touchscreen enabled. And you can click on local projects. You can click on INDOT related projects. You can click on bridge. If you want to get specific about, I just want to talk about bridges. I don't know why you do that, but you just want to talk about bridges. You can do that. And this gives you the 5-year forecast, what we're looking at over the next 5 years. So as you can see here, there's kind of small, but you can see 2021, 22, 23 to all the way up for 5 or 6 years. So as the year falls off, so does that, and then the next year flies into this. So you click on one of these circles, and you see that little white box pop up. And so this situation that says there's a bridge deck overlay, and so it'll tell you where it's at, what mile marker, if it's on a state highway, interstate, whatever. It'll give you the projected start date, projected completion date, and our estimated budget. If it's already started, it'll tell you when it's supposed to be complete and how much money we are actually, what the bid was and what we're going to spend on this particular project as we're going forward. So this map is really cool. I think it lets you know what's going on in your neighborhood, what may be going on your commute to work over the next 12 months, 18 months, whatever you want to look at. It gives you a pretty good idea of what we're doing here at INDOT. The next slide is questions, and I know Rich is manning the Q&A box, but some of the challenges that we face at INDOT, and unfortunately some of our project management still has to be kind of old school in the sense that it's very strategic, because we have a lot of coordination. This isn't just, oh, let's go do this project. Oh yeah, here's a couple $1 million. Let's go build this thing and let's go get a contractor and do it. Darn near every project we do has some sort of right-of-way feature. So we have a real estate team that we have to coordinate with. Most of them are going to have some sort of utility implications. So it could be power, it could be electric, could be gas, could be water, could be stormwater, any of those, fiber, and so a lot of utility coordination. So our project managers, for the good part, we have utility people in all 6 of our districts. We have real estate folks in each of our districts. We have rail people in each of our districts, because sometimes these projects do intersect with a rail line, which can be challenging because their headquarters may be in Florida, for example. They may not be here in Indiana. And so we have rail folks, we have right-of-way, real estate, we have utility folks, we have contract people in each of the districts. So the project manager is kind of the person that holds the keys to all of these things. And so when they need utilities, the utilities folks may be just right down the hall and around into a different cubicle. And so we kind of have to step through these. And then once we finally get all those boxes checked, we can get into contract letting, and then do our pre-construction meetings with our new contractor, knock all these things out, and actually go build it. Rich, you got anything?
Oh, we sure do. There's been a plethora, but I've got the next level roadmap up here. So while you're answering the questions, I'll be looking at projects near me.
Yeah, right. I may have to pull it up too, because if you ask me about a specific, somebody asked me, I was at a high school basketball game the other day, and somebody asked me about a specific project. I'm like, and this is in Johnson County. I'm like, oh, I don't really know.
Yeah, well, it's more than a few that you have to keep track of. I see here. Hey, you talked a lot about communication.
1,300 this year.
I'm going to okay, that was a follow-up question I had. Let's go with Emily's question on communication. You emphasize this quite a bit. I will then, folks, if I'm skipping the overview, I'll come back to you on the question as well. So publish, then hit the Q&A button, and there it is.
144 and 37, yeah. Yeah, how we deal with dissatisfied people, we just don't pay attention to them. We don't respond to them. No, I'm totally kidding. So 144 and 37 is a really tough spot right now. So you're living in a very highly constricted area where there's a lot of crossovers. There's a lot of lane restrictions because that's a hot and heavy location right there. So bless you for hopefully sticking with us on this. So how we deal with dissatisfied people is we do have a full staff of customer service folks and who are trained in answering those questions, whether it be via phone or email, or if some folks, particularly those, we do a lot of, we call them tabletop conversations or kitchen table discussions. And a lot of our project managers, they're especially major projects like this. If you're a project manager working on this project, I'm not saying that anybody else is not good in our agency by any means, but they've been around. They know what they're doing. They know how to deal with the public, particularly dissatisfied folks. And so they'll do a lot of tabletop conversations. And so they'll go out to your home and meet with you, and they'll sit around the kitchen table. They'll talk through, particularly if we're having to acquire some of your property, which sometimes becomes challenging for all. And we'll sit down and talk with you. You know, to me, this is the most critical thing, because a lot of times dissatisfied folks, it happens, they're in the moment. They're stuck in traffic because there's orange barrels. They're mad. They may be cursing. They may be honking their horn, those kind of things. But a few minutes later, you're through the intersection. You kind of forgot about it. But if it really irked you enough, and people call or send emails or get on our INDOT website and post, we also have an INDOT mobile app that you can download for free on Apple or on Google on Android, and you can dump those issues into there as well. Our goal is to respond to you within 24 hours if you send us an email with a solution, hopefully with a solution.
Very good. I'm going to switch topics to sources of funding. There are a couple that we had in this thread here of you're
Yeah.
mentioning that the money comes from the pump. EVs are going to have a big impact on this, electric vehicles, of course. What does the future look like in terms of a funding model?
Yeah. So that's a tremendous question. And Indiana's not alone in this. Obviously, there's 50 states that are having the same conversation. So part of the new infrastructure bill that was signed, like I said yesterday, provides India, separate from the $1 billion that we talked about. There's $100 million that INDOT will receive over 5 years. So this isn't just tomorrow, here's $100 million. This is over 5 years. We'll receive $100 million for electric vehicle charging infrastructure. And so does that look like we have a bunch of Tesla charging docks at all the rest areas? Not likely. What that means is that we're going to spend some time and we're going to evaluate this. Fortunately, about 3 years ago, we have a university here in Indiana that's fairly well known for engineering in West Lafayette, and so Purdue University has been an amazing partner for us for all things, whether it's pavement conditions and how do you build out the next better concoction of asphalt. But in this situation, electric vehicles has been a hot topic for us, and Cummins has been very, very supportive for us and out of Columbus, and working directly with Purdue on this initiative. And so what we're looking at is the possibility. I want to take it to the next level. That's the governor's catchphrase, but electric charging stations. If I'm driving from here to Chicago and I need to stop, or if I'm a FedEx truck, let's say I'm a FedEx delivery person, and I'm getting 60 to 70 miles on a charge, am I going to be able to deliver all those Christmas packages or all those Amazon packages on that one charge? I don't know. And so we don't want you to have to take that extra 30 minutes to charge. So can we put that equipment in the surface of the road and then charge you for the kilowatt hours you're driving over it? But as you're driving, we're charging that vehicle. So we were the first state to do this. California was talking about it. We had started having this conversation with Purdue. So Purdue went out and hired a professor out of California that was talking about this.
Oh, nice.
So he now is an employee of Purdue University and works directly with INDOT on a regular basis. It's quite awesome. And so EV is coming, and we need to be prepared for it. There's also $50 million out there for all state DOTs to look at vehicle miles traveled and to pilot that, which would tie in with the EV piece. So instead of paying 25 cents a gallon at the pump for taxes or whatever the number is, we could potentially do away with all that. And And then all of that would be monitored, and you would pay quarterly. You would pay a tax based off of the miles that you have traveled, and through a log. So those are some of the things that the federal government is asking us to kind of think about with EV stuff.
I
Yeah,
have
more to pump.
two more related questions. So this one and another
Yeah,
juicy one coming up too, about
yeah,
the trust fund. But go with this one first.
yeah. So there's Jessica. There's an interesting piece to this. So as you can imagine, there's a static gas tax, a fuel tax, when you pay at the pump. And so whether you get 1 gallon or you get 20 gallons, you're going to pay this specific 24 cents per gallon that you
It's
get.
cents per gallon. It's not a percentage, right? It's just one of the
There's
bar
two.
chart
So
items.
there's a two piece to this. So that is the one static number that stays constant no matter what. And so when gas prices go up to, let's say they're 3.25 or 3.30 a gallon today, less people are going to be taking those extra trips to go to the grocery store, to go to the mall, to go do those kind of things. So you're driving less. And so the least you consume, the less amount that we receive. The caveat to that is there's also a sales tax on fuel. So just like when you go buy a new TV, you pay 7%. If you buy $1,000 TV, you're going to spend $70. You're going to spend 7% on tax on that TV. Same thing you do at the pump. So now there's 7% on 3.30 a gallon as opposed to just a static 24 cents. So it's a catch 22. And so right now we haven't really seen a dip in our collections. But when you get up around $3.50 to $4, absolutely we will see a decline because less people. You're just not going to drive as much.
Here's the other one that mentions the Federal Highway Trust Fund
Yeah.
and estimates about how much things need to be raised, and yeah, any additional response with this question?
Yeah. So good. Another great one. And so this is what we did. When I say we, the state of Indiana did, and the General Assembly did back in 2017. Everybody saw the writing on the wall that the traditional gas tax at the federal level hasn't really been touched since the late 80s, early 90s. And so, with inflation, even in normal times of inflation, that's pretty much diminished to zero. It does spin off some money, but as you can see right there, the Highway Trust Fund was about to become insolvent. If they hadn't kicked in a continuing resolution, it was tanked by the end of October. They saved it. They put in a 6-month backstop to it. This new infrastructure bill will bring it back around. But what they really need to look at is what we did here in Indiana is raise the fuel tax across the board, specialty fuels, diesel, unleaded, doesn't matter. And then they indexed it. And so every July 1st, and there's kind of they created this kind of this funky little calculation, but it's CPI and in Indiana based, they take into wages and all these kind of things just for the state of Indiana, and they increase it. So when they increased the fuel tax in 2017, it was 10 cents. So 10 cents across the board, everybody paid 10 cents more. Since then, we've seen every July 1st, we've seen about a 1 to 1.5 cent increase. And so it's compounded. So now, we're up to maybe 14 cents extra than you didn't pay back in the beginning of 2017. And so that's how ours is staying current, is it's tied to an index and CPI. And that's what I would strongly encourage the feds to take a look at. It's not something that any one of us want to do. None of us want to. I don't want to pay taxes. Nobody wants to pay taxes. But we also realize that our infrastructure is critical for daily life. I challenge people all the time to tell me another state agency that touches your life every single day. None of us want to deal with DCS. We don't want to deal with FSSA. We certainly don't want to deal with the state police. And the BMV, yeah, we have to deal with them, but not every day. INDOT is one of those agencies that you probably have to drive on one of our roads to get to work or to get your kids to school or whatever. And if it's not a state highway and you drive on Main Street in Indiana, we likely funded a project there. So it's critical that we maintain these funds and keep our infrastructure up.
Okay, Joe, I'm going to change it up a bit here. We've talked an awful lot about roads, but I think there are other parts of infrastructure, at least. There's
Yeah.
actually two embedded questions here. The one I want to pick up, one is, One question, the first one there had to do with your ability to get people to work together that you talked about a little bit earlier. Let's talk first about the broadband access. Is that an
Yeah,
INDOT initiative?
it is ish. So in this bill and this
It's a
current
great
infrastructure bill, there's a
topic. There are a
whole.
lot of people that
It
care
is.
about this.
It is.
Yeah. So
So there's a whole bunch of other money tied into this. There's public transit. There's $680 million for public transit. There's 700 and I think what is it, $751 million for water infrastructure to provide safe, clean drinking water. In this, there's also $100 million again over all these are over 5 years. So $100 million over 5 years for broadband access. If we rewind back to 2018 or so, the state negotiated the toll road lease up in northern Indiana, renegotiated that for trucks, specifically for truck traffic. It spun off about $1 billion over a 3 year period. And so what the governor wanted to do was really tackle this rural broadband issue. And so they put out $100 million for grants to service providers. Could be AT&T, but could be your local co-op. It could be Nine Star. Who is a co-op? It's any one of these groups that could have access to these dollars. It's not an access for or a grant for rich for you to go out and get one for your house. It's not that at all. This is for to build out the capital that's necessary to run the line to your home, so you can get at least 100 over 10 service. So the General Assembly this past session that ended in April, had a bunch of COVID money. And so they put another couple $100 million towards this. Then the federal government comes in and just puts another $100 million into it yesterday. And so there's going to be a lot of money coming towards the broadband world. The feds in this bill, specifically for Indiana, said that there's about 24% of Hoosiers either are not served, so they have no access. So they're having to drive to local McDonald's to get internet, or they're relying on their cell phone. Or so 24% are either unserved or underserved. So the fastest you could get is maybe 10 over 1. And as we know, the world that we're living in now post-COVID, or hopefully soon post-COVID, we're streaming everything, whether that's Zoom meetings or television or whatever that may be. And our kids are doing more from home because now they have Chromebooks and iPads and all this other kind of stuff. I think there's a lot coming. There's a lot out there right now. And so with $100 million coming from the feds, the $300+ million coming from the state, in time, I'm hoping that we can knock this out. It's very capital intensive. Some of the rural providers, like the REMCs, tell me that it's about $40,000 a mile to run the access. That's not even to get it to your home or to your business.
Wow.
It's just $40,000 a mile just to run the thing, the cable.
Well, something on
a
a lot of people's mind.
secret sauce.
Yep. Oh, getting people to
The secret
agree.
sauce just get everybody playing the same sandbox. Yeah. So for me, the first thing right out of the gate is you just got to be able to build those relationships. And so sitting down, there's as much as we're all into Zoom, there's nothing that beats that good old face-to-face, sit down and have lunch, coffee, breakfast, drink after work, whatever that may be. There's nothing that beats that face-to-face communication. And sitting down for me, it was sitting down, identifying the key players out of the gate and meet with them individually. Don't meet with them as a group, because then everybody just piles on and it becomes I didn't necessarily want a network of people talking. I wanted to have a one-on-one face-to-face. I'm going to go talk to this CEO. I'm going to go talk to this CEO. I'm going to go talk to this executive director of this association, and sit down and have these conversations with them, pitch the idea of, and give me your feedback, and be willing to take constructive criticism and build that in. And they have to be willing to do the same. But the face-to-face interaction for me has been critical and huge. And keeping it at in the beginning, one-on-one, and then as you grow some of that trust, you can build up to maybe a group of 3 or 4, and then eventually you're going to be able to get to a room of people. But at the same time, when you get these decision makers or maybe project managers in the room that maybe are fed up with INDOT because they got screwed over on a specific change order or whatever it may be, their boss is probably on stage with you to talk through this. And so they're going to be a lot more willing to listen if the guy or the gal that signs the front of the paycheck is sitting with you. If you're all up there together, 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 of you, and you're passing a mic and you're talking through these, they're going to be a lot more willing to listen, because they know that person writes their paycheck.
Oh, that always helps. Hey, Joe, thanks a lot for that insight. I'll tell you, we are at our time. We have more
Sure.
questions. If people have more questions, how can they? Is there a way that can we collect them and send them to you? Is there a way for people
Yeah,
to reach
yeah, yeah.
out to you? What's the mechanism for additional questions?
Yeah, I don't know. Can I type on this thing? Maybe I can. I
Yes.
can. I can certainly provide. Um, and through Casey, I can do the same. This is my government email address. See if it comes up. It's J McGuinness. There it is. It did pop up.
You got
J
okay.
McGuinness at
Good. There it is.
indot.in.gov, and I can always communicate. We have a great communications people, public relations folks. So between Linda and me, we can get those questions.
Awesome.
If they're very
Awesome.
technical related, I can find some project manager to reach out to you.
Very, very good. I'm sure people would appreciate that. Joe, thank you again. I understand you're going to hang around for the networking session, and
Yeah,
they're going to
sure.
be part of the one lucky group is going to score our guest speaker in their small group. So
Sorry.
that'll be cool, and you'll be able to get a chance for some back and forth dialogue with somebody other than me at this point. And then in appreciation, Joe, for this, we always like to do something special for the speakers. So for you. No, you're not going to get this drone. What we're going to do is we're going to fly this over your house, and then it's going to
Okay.
drop and deliver onto your porch. Um, this right here. Yes, it's indeed a
Awesome.
certificate of an appreciation, and uniquely enough, signed by a fraternity brother. So I think that'll
Awesome.
be very, very special for you. And if that drone thing doesn't work, we'll
I
send
can
it
just print
over.
it off.
We'll send it over email on broadband, and you can print it
That's
off.
right.
Joe McGuinness, thanks a bunch. If you want, you can go
Thank
ahead
you.
and turn off microphone and camera. We're going to have a bit of an interlude here, an interview with a very special volunteer, and then just listen in for the instructions on how the networking sessions are going to go. So encourage people to just hang around for the networking sessions. We do use cameras during that. And you might get a chance to be in the subgroup with Joe. But first, if I can do this right, it's this time of the meeting. Yes, indeed. Don't adjust your computer there. The sound is just fine. But what we have here is our special guest volunteer of the month, Daria Vaughn. Daria, I want to welcome you. You are a volunteer with PMI. Welcome. And how long have you been volunteering with PMI? Daria, unmute the little microphone button there.
I'm very new. For about 2 months.
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Look at that. 2 months. How long have you been a project manager?
For about
Yes.
13 years.
How long have you been a project manager?
13
All right.
years.
When you're not volunteering for PMI, what do you spend? When you're not volunteering for PMI, what do you spend your time doing?
Chasing a
Wonder who has
13
the
and
most
15-year-old and traveling when I can.
All righty, that's very cool. I understand you are a recent graduate of the Disciplined Agile certification. Is that
Yeah.
right? We'd like to hear a little bit about that.
It was a 4-day training engagement when we had the conference for a half day. So it was very enlightening, and it provided a framework for how to lead agile and lean teams. So it was very enlightening.
Okay, would you do it again? I mean, would you say it was a good investment of your time and money?
It was absolutely a good investment of my time and also of my money. I'm already starting to apply some of those principles in my workplace. We're not yet there culturally to accept agile, but we're making some strides. So,
Oh, I
very
think you brought this
beneficial.
up the other day. So what does it mean when someone's not ready culturally to do the agile thing?
It means that everybody has to be on board from the top to the bottom or to the sides or however the organization leads, because it enables teams and partners to choose their own wow or way of working instead of being a top-down management, project management style or program management style.
Cool. Who is which DA? Are there multiple DA programs, discipline actual programs around?
There are multiple programs. PMI actually is offering a couple of them. There's a senior level, I think it's the DA SSM, and I want to say that there is a time requirement for being in the Scrum role or Scrum experience before going for that one. But
Okay.
I did not have that going in, so I did go for the DASM, and again, it's been very beneficial so far.
Got it. Okay, Derry, I must ask you this question. I'm looking. Your name is right here but when I look at it, without glasses, it looks like DAR. That I could be an L. Do you get called Darla a lot, perchance?
Yes, and Daria, both are incorrect.
Daria. Oh, it's Daria, right? Long A.
Like Dairy
Got it
Queen.
right?
Yes.
Okay, well, that explains the name thing, but you still have some explaining to do. When we conversed a little bit over email on this, I noticed this. Let's see, I have it here. So your email address, istdesigner007. Well, you have some James Bond flair to you or something. What's the background behind that?
You know, I love James Bond, but I love Sean Connery more, to be very honest with you. Interestingly enough, I saw a couple of the flicks with Sean Connery, but Entrapment is actually my favorite Connery. So go figure.
Oh, well, my final question is going to be, who's your favorite James Bond character, actor?
Well, Sean.
It's Sean. It's Sean. You can't
All
go
day
wrong
long
with
and
Sean.
twice on Sunday.
Daria Vaughn, thank you very much for joining us and agreeing to be here and answer some of the fun questions along and share what you had learned in your experiences with DA. And thanks for volunteering for us.
Thanks for having me.
You betcha. All right.